Yes or no?
Which directive?
DoD Directive 1344.10. I'm happy to provide you a copy. There's even a one-page red and green cheat sheet. Are you familiar with it? This is the same directive from when we were all in uniform.
I'm sure I am.
Has anything changed in that directive under your guidance, given what happened 2 days ago at Fort Bragg? Is there a new policy change that we're not aware of?
Again, I totally reject your insinuation.
Is there a policy change to DoD Directive 1344.10?
I know what you're attempting to insinuate, but there's no policy change and there is no policy.
Mr. Secretary, have you ever worn a MAGA hat in front of the troops?
I own plenty of MAGA hats, but I don't.
Have you ever worn one in front of the troops at an official event? I don't believe so. I don't believe so. Do you think it's appropriate for the President of the United States to wear political merchandise, including a MAGA hat, at official events, including West Point commencement?
The Commander-in-Chief
yes or no?
Can wear whatever hat he wants, to include the phrase, "Make America Great Again," because I would like to.
This wasn't a partisan clash. This was a line being drawn. When Congressman Pat Ryan looked the Secretary of Defense in the eye and said, "You should resign," it wasn't about tone. It was about the U.S. military being dragged toward political loyalty tests. And once that line is crossed, the damage doesn't stop at Fort Bragg.
Goes back. Chair, and I recognize the gentleman from New York, Mr. Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you both for being here. We have all worn the uniform. We've all served in combat. We all love our country. We all revere our troops. And I really want to speak with you both, not as partisans, but as patriots. And I want to talk specifically about the events at Fort Bragg the other day. General Kane, I want to start with you. As a junior officer, were you ever required to make a pledge of political loyalty? Yes or no?
Sir, as you know, we're an apolitical military, so, no.
Thank you. At any time in your 30-plus years of incredibly distinguished service, did you have to make a pledge of partisan or political loyalty?
No, sir.
Thank you. Did you ever serve in any unit or command at any level where service members were required to make a pledge of political loyalty?
No, sir.
Thank you. And I want to commend you. You've been on the record on this, including in your confirmation hearings, where you clarified, quote, "I've never worn any political merchandise or said anything to that effect." I appreciate that. That is the standard, and commend you for saying so and continuing to model that. General Kane, one last question for you. Should soldiers have to pledge political loyalty to participate in an event with our Commander-in-Chief? Yes or no, please?
Sir, I'm not, first, no. I'm not aware of any time in history that soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines have been asked to do that. I think.
And I'm sorry, General, I do want to, just in the interest of time, I want to talk about what happened at Fort Bragg 2 days ago. There was guidance put out, and this has been verified by multiple independent news outlets, saying, quote, these are to the soldiers of the 18th Airborne Corps and the U.S. Army. If soldiers have political views that are in opposition to the current administration, then they need to speak with their leadership and get swapped out. This is swapped out of the event with the president. In addition, in an incredibly disturbing incident, there was a pop-up shop selling MAGA merchandise on post at Fort Bragg. And to summarize this, there was a commander from Bragg who said on the record, quote, "This has been a bad week for the Army, for anyone who cares about us being a neutral institution. This was shameful." If those are the facts, and I know the Army is investigating at least the MAGA pop-up shop, is that appropriate, General Kane?
Sir, I haven't seen any of these reports. I'm not familiar with them, but as I mentioned earlier and in my confirmation hearing, the nation demands a apolitical, nonpartisan military.
I appreciate you saying that and happy to share those reports. Secretary Hegseth, are you familiar with DoD Directive 1344.10? Political activities of the members of the armed forces?
Well, first off, I don't buy
you,
into
yes
your
or no?
insinuation
Are you familiar
that pledges
with,
are being done under this administration. That's
I reclaim my time. Are you familiar with this DoD directive?
There's never one time in my service or in this
Mr.
Defense
Secretary,
Department.
will you please answer
I'm answering your
these
question
questions?
where politics has been considered for service members.
Are you familiar with this directive? Yes or no?
Which directive?
DoD Directive 1344.10. I'm happy to provide you a copy. There's even a one-page red and green cheat sheet. Are you familiar with it? This is the same directive from when we were all in uniform.
I'm sure I am.
Has anything changed in that directive under your guidance, given what happened 2 days ago at Fort Bragg? Is there a new policy change that we're not aware of?
Again, I totally reject your insinuation.
Is there a policy change to DoD Directive 1344.10?
I know what you're attempting to insinuate, but there's
I'll
no
take that as a
policy
no.
change and there is no policy.
Mr. Secretary, have you ever worn a MAGA hat in front of the troops?
I own plenty of MAGA hats, but I don't.
Have you ever worn one in front of the troops at an official event? I don't believe
aware
so.
of.
I don't believe so. Do you think it's appropriate for the President of the United States to wear political merchandise, including a MAGA hat, at official events, including West Point commencement?
The Commander-in-Chief
Yes or no?
can wear whatever hat he wants to include the phrase, "Make America Great Again," because I would like to
you
make
think
America
that's-
great again as well.
So you think that's appropriate?
The Commander-in-Chief has the right in front of his troops to wear whatever he'd like.
Okay, I strongly disagree with you, and I urge you both, especially you, General Kane, as we see an increasingly political rhetoric, including from the Secretary, to please, for the good of our troops, this is an incredibly difficult moment, and we need leaders like you to continue to echo the apolitical nature. I have 12 seconds. Mr. Secretary, I don't say this lightly. I have to say this on the record. I think your tenure as Secretary of Defense has been shameful and weak, and you should resign. I yield back.
Gentlemen.
What makes this exchange so consequential isn't the final sentence, it's everything that leads up to it. Pat Ryan doesn't begin with accusations, he begins with shared ground. Combat service, love of country, respect for the uniform. That's deliberate, because the issue here isn't ideology, it's a foundational rule that has governed the American military for generations. The armed forces serve the Constitution, not a political movement. Ryan methodically establishes that norm by questioning General Kane. In 3 separate ways, he asks the same thing. Have soldiers ever been required to pledge political loyalty? The answer is consistently no. Not once, not ever. That repetition matters because it reminds Americans that political neutrality in the military isn't a suggestion, it's doctrine, tradition, and necessity. Then Ryan pivots to Fort Bragg, and this is where the stakes sharpen. Reports indicate soldiers were warned that if their political views conflicted with the administration, they should be swapped out of an event with the president. Even more disturbing, MAGA merchandise was reportedly sold on base. If true, that's not just inappropriate, it's a violation of the principle that keeps the military from becoming a political instrument. Why does that matter to the public? Because a military that starts sorting soldiers by political belief stops being a national institution and starts becoming a factional one. History shows where that leads, and it's never stability. Ryan then turns to Secretary Pete Hegseth, and the contrast is immediate. Where General Kane answers clearly, Hegseth deflects. He rejects insinuations. He avoids yes or no answers. He reframes questions instead of addressing them. Ryan presses on a specific safeguard, DOD 1344.10, the rule that strictly limits political activity by service members. This isn't obscure policy. Every veteran knows it, and yet Hegseth won't plainly state whether anything has changed under his leadership. Then comes the moment that crystallizes the exchange. Ryan asks whether Hegseth has worn MAGA merchandise in front of troops. Hegseth admits he owns plenty of MAGA hats. When asked whether it's appropriate for the commander-in-chief to wear political merchandise in front of the military, Hegseth says yes. That answer lands heavily because it signals a break from decades of precedent. The presidency isn't just a political office, it's the civilian head of an apolitical military. What leaders model matters, especially to young service members watching closely. And that's why Ryan's final words aren't theatrical, they're procedural, moral, and institutional. When he says, "Your tenure as Secretary of Defense has been shameful and weak, and you should resign," he's not calling for punishment, he's warning about erosion, about what happens when neutrality is replaced with loyalty, when silence replaces accountability. This isn't about left versus right, it's about whether the U.S. military remains loyal to the Constitution or begins drifting toward political allegiance. And that question affects every American, regardless of party.